Hello and welcome back to my Planet Zoo playthrough. In this episode, I'm starting to work on some scenery around my moose habitat and then the moose habitat itself. This particular one gave me a lot of trouble because I guess I wasn't understanding how to put the roof on the little walkway that goes through. So you'll see me struggle with that a lot. I skip around a lot of it because I ended up redoing the roof several times. I really wanted this area that people were like in the habitat, but maybe the process of it got away from me. Like I said, I'm not 100% familiar with everything within Planet Zoo. This whole Siber Park, which is what this zoo is called, is kind of me trying to branch out when it comes to building things maybe that I'm not used to. So I put up the walls here, and as you can see, they curve around this bend, and it was alright putting the walls up, but when it came to adding the roof, I got really frustrated. So we're putting in the little viewing area, but I spend most of this habitat build doing this, which I guess is why I cut out so much of it. I think recording time was about 2 hours, but I had to speed it up and cut it down quite a bit just to get through this. So like I said, this one is moose, and a little bit of facts about moose, because I think they're really awesome but also terrifying animals. They're the largest in a species of deer, basically, the largest and heaviest. They're in a genus all themselves. I can't remember what it's called, Alces, something like that. And they're North American. I always seem to default to North American animals in this. I don't know why. I think it's just the building materials I like. As I said in my last video, I tend to gravitate towards things that are wood or look more natural because I think it's easier to build animal habitats around that kind of material, since an animal like a moose is going to be living in the forest and mountainous areas, so it's easier for me to incorporate them. Yeah, here's the roof. I show a little bit of it, but I don't know. If anybody has any tips and tricks on building a roof that wraps like that, because at the end of the day I just kept throwing pieces on it until it looked like it wrapped, and then I covered up the ugly bits with more logs. Logs. They're big, they're heavy, they're wood, and they cover up my ugly spots. But I kind of wish Frontier would have more pieces, especially roof pieces, that wrap. I don't know how you would incorporate that back into the game, but I'm not a game developer. So this whole area was, all I was thinking of was viewing gallery, but I think maybe I should have simplified it a little bit more looking back on it. Once we get inside, I kind of gave up because I was very frustrated with the process of it, and I just didn't feel like doing an interior, and I'd already put the roof on, which everyone always tells me, oh, do the interior first before you put the roof on, but I never do. I usually just end up building the entire exterior, and then the interiors for me are always not necessarily an afterthought, but I don't care about them as much, which sounds really awful. I don't care about them because I never go in there. It's just what people end up doing, you know. They go through there and then they kind of disappear in my mind. But I do put down some benches, and I fill up the little areas behind it with rocks, and I at least put lighting in there for the poor people so they can see. And I think I put an education board in there at some point, but for me personally, the habitats are my favorite part to build. Putting down rock work and foliage and all of that for the actual animals. So maybe that was why I was so frustrated well, not even necessarily frustrated, just kind of done. I was donesies by the end of this because I spent the vast majority of my time doing this, which isn't my favorite, but hey. When it came to this viewing part, I put these rocks up. I don't necessarily consider, oh, what's safe for a guest? I know moose are huge animals and they're actually extremely dangerous from what I've heard. I've never seen a moose in real life, but I've heard stories of them attacking people. They're like dangerous, some of the most dangerous animals. People are like, oh, I'd much rather come across a bear than a bull moose because they're more likely to push your shit in. But I was like, okay, well, I don't want them to be able to get up to the glass that that the guests are looking through, so maybe if I put this slope of rocks here, it would prevent a moose from being able to just full on charge at the glass. But I guess we can assume the glass is, I don't know, reinforced as well. Putting it in. And again, a lot of this habitat ends up being rock work, which is one of my favorite things. I know some of my boards, my education boards, needed electricity, which I put up a little maintenance shed farther on, but I don't show me building that. One thing I learned, because I never checked the Zoopedia for some reason in this game, is apparently moose have to have water. It's one of their requirements in this game, which I didn't know. I didn't even... Is that even a real life thing? Do moose spend a lot of time in water? If they do, I've seen them in like swampy areas or marshes or whatever, but I didn't know they needed it. So this was actually just me putting this in because I thought it looked better than just putting in one of them little water pipes. But apparently they need this, and I put in enough for them, so good for me. So here's a little reinforced wall that's going to be another viewing area for the people. And again, thinking about safety and the fact that this is a massive, powerful animal, I was like, well, I better put in just this extra bit of security, because I do end up putting in a really large fence up top as well. Plus the rock work, just to prevent any accidents. People can't get in there. I don't understand why you'd want to get in with a moose. So I borrow these fences from my raccoon habitat, except for the mesh part that goes over the edge. I didn't include that because these custom fence pieces are really expensive. They're like $200 some a pop, and as you can see, I started running out of money. I was like, well, I better stop, and just focused a little bit more on terrain while my money built up. Because I was thinking, where do I want to put their hard shelter? Originally, it was going to be over where the concrete piece is, but you'll see me change my mind about that, because then I realized, well, that's blocking off one of the areas where people are going to be viewing these animals, and I kind of struggled with where I wanted their hard shelter, because originally I wanted it to, again, just blend and be made out of terrain or rock work, but then I opted to, like, build a little, I guess, cabin-y sort of thing, shed, I don't know. I was so burnt out from building that wraparound that it's kind of just half-assed. And I moved the habitat gate over, and then I realized, well, I can't fit a building there, and then I move it back, which, not my preference, because I ended up having some gates with the glass to see through, but, you know, whatever. I was kind of hoping they didn't need hard shelter, but then when I bring them in, I realize, oh yeah, they do. A lot of rock work in this, a lot of just trying to make it look natural. I used this piece, trying to make some kind of center point, just something interesting to look at with the rocks, and to create like a path. I was hoping they could go under this. And then I was thinking about the bull moose's antlers, and I've seen him get close to that arch. I'm not sure if he can actually go under it though. I guess I should have looked at his habitat, like where he could traverse. The female might be able to. I'm not sure. I haven't seen either of them do it yet, but maybe next time I go on the game, I'll check to see if they even can. Either way, it's nice to look out for the guests, and I made kind of an interesting area to put foliage around, so whatever. Yeah, so there you see me put that glass there, and here's me thinking about putting their hard shelter here. Then I'm like, no, I can't do that because it's blocking one of the viewing areas. So that's just kind of leaving me in to show my thought process when it comes to stuff like this. And at one point I thought about putting it over around that wrapped building, but then I was like, no, I'm not touching that anymore. I'm not going to try and put another roof piece off of that, so I just end up putting it here. And for some reason at this point in the game, I bring the moose in, and the game was like, the bull moose has escaped. He was completely inside. He was in the habitat, and the vet came and darted him and took him away, and I couldn't find him. I was like, where did you take him? And for some reason he put him into quarantine, and for a while I thought I lost him, and I was pretty mad because I spent conservation points on him, but I ended up finding him. There's the girl. I think at this point they've taken the male. Yeah, now it's like, where is he? So I'm stealing my little education board that I kind of customized from my skunks, wrapped them. Oh, no, he's in there. And again, setting these to be for the moose, but some of them don't work because there's no electricity, but I rectify that in a later area. So here we are going to put in a bunch of the foliage, my favorite parts. I love just dumping foliage everywhere. And luckily the moose have really high, like you can just load them up. I think it's 100%. You can put as much foliage in with them as you want, which is great. That's my favorite kind of animal. And actually what I'm putting in here, I add more later on, which when I skip, you're gonna see that I've added more in, but it got to the point where I had been working on a specific habitat for hours, so I took a break and I came back later to do more recording, which was supposed to be a separate thing, but I ended up just combining them. And this area right there, he can get up there, like both of them can. And I was like, that's terrifying that they can get that close to the glass. I didn't think they could get up on those rocks, but they absolutely can. So that was the skip, and this is me working on some of the stuff outside, like right outside the moose habitat. Again, more rock work, just kind of making this little cliff that leads up and around. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do up there yet. I think I'm going to put another food area since people have started to complain about, oh, we don't have enough food. But then I was thinking, is that too far? Not a lot of people come up and around here yet, but I don't know. I'm not sure if I'll just have another habitat branch off of there or not. So much rock work. I do so much, and I actually cut out a lot of it. Most of my building is, if I have to say anything about this game, it's utilize the rocks to your advantage, because they can fill in space, they can cover up spots that just look bad, and they're also just interesting to look at. They have a really nice texture in this game. Just keep in mind rotating them. I rotate them and turn them and flip them, and just so you're not getting, you know, broken horse. Every other really good builder in this game has emphasized that, like, don't leave things unturned, because then it's all just going to look too samey and man-made, which I don't like the look of. So I end up going up and around and filling in behind that god-awful building with a bunch of rocks, which I cut out most of it because I was like, oh, that looks like somewhere where somebody would just fall and break their goddamn neck or something. I'm really, when it comes to this zoo, again, it's not based on anything. I'm not looking at anything in regards to the building, but I am, I guess, thinking more of safety when it comes to this one in particular, so I end up adding some fencing around here. These rocks are kind of just discouraging people from trying to climb onto the rooftop, because that's an OSHA violation. I wouldn't climb on that roof. It's very shoddily put together. Putting up our nice fence, because as we know, people in zoos like to climb over fences, fall down cliffs. I kind of wish there was more dangerous things in this game, like old Zoo Tycoon games, but as it stands, I don't even think people can get attacked by animals. There's not even really animations of people. Well, there's no animations of people getting attacked, and there's very limited animations for, like, animals outside their own species fighting. They kind of just chase each other down and bump into each other and then ragdoll. It's kind of funny, but I do wish there was more, how would you say, fighting animations. I know that's pretty fucked up, but that was part of what made Zoo Tycoon so funny. So here we are outside the stupid walkway thing, and originally I planned on putting the power back there under the bridge, but I didn't realize that the negative impact of that extends up onto the bridge, so that kind of ruined my plans for that. So I didn't know what to do with that. I just blocked it off with foliage. Here we're putting in a little sign because I wanted to use that cute little moose thing. I couldn't figure out where to put it, so I just made this little sign. I might take this and put it somewhere else around this habitat too, because it's really cute. It's just using pieces and making a custom stand for one of the edible signs. Edible as in you can write on it, not eat it. Wouldn't recommend eating it. I haven't unlocked a lot of them, so I just kind of use a generic one. All I have is the African ones, I believe, at this point. So it's just a little sign leading people into the tunnel that they can view. It's just another viewing area for the moose. And I kind of use the text that's, I don't know, it reminds me of Old World or Viking or something like that, but... And there's the little moose, and he's so cute. I wanted to use him, and it was the only way I could think to do it, so it's just leading people in, put a little foliage around it. I was gonna put some props around, but it just wasn't looking natural, so log to match the building, and then blend it into the rocks behind it. And that's essentially it. That's the last thing I do, and you're going to see a little screenshot of the female moose. I don't know where the male was, and again, I don't know if she can go under that, but this is my thumbnail for my video, and this is part of the finished habitat, but they're in there, they're happy. I'm still doing research to give them stuff to do inside the habitat, like their food and all of that, but thank you for watching me build this and rage a little bit about that building. But I think the next thing I'm going to do is use one of my modded animals, which is the Eastern Wild Turkey, I believe, so that should be a lot of fun. I already have them bought, and I have a space set up for them, so all I got to do is get that recorded. And so if you want to see that, just like, subscribe, and you can come back and see me put in some turkeys. Thank you. Goodbye.